Hello everybody, this is Kyrix with another edition of This Week in Kyrix. This is for the week of Wednesday, April 18th, 2018. Okay, cool. Actually being recorded on Wednesday. I'm more on top of that these days, it seems. Good for me, good for me. Not a lot to talk about though. That kinda sucks, but it is what it is. We're gonna dive right down, see about making a place to live. Because that's fun. Places to live are nice. First things first, got to find the bottom. Oh, that drops off rather sharply. So, what to do first, really? That's the primary question, I guess. Let's see here. What have I got to play with? Wrong button. I do have some cobblestone. Do I have a lot of sandstone? Do I have any sandstone? Could have sworn I had sandstone. Maybe that was a different game. I think that was a different game. Never mind. Dirt. Dirt's good. Dirt's something I won't necessarily miss. So, we did Pokemon League today. In case, new viewers, I don't think anyone watches this, are wondering, when I refer to today, it's 4:05 in the morning, so aside from some naps, I'm still effectively working on Tuesday. It is Wednesday, technically, but for all intents and purposes, it's still Tuesday, at least to me. So when you hear me refer to today, I'm talking about Tuesday, not Wednesday. So yeah, we did Pokemon League today. Everyone who was gonna make it made it, obviously. But, let's see. We did our Legendaries tournament, but one of the players... God damn it, I'm trying to run again. That's not how that works in this one. Didn't have... She and her brothers basically split the 3DS. There's, well, 2DS. They have 2 between the 3 of them, you know? So... Hers should allegedly be fixed by the end of the week, so it won't be an issue next time. But basically, due to half the people showing up fairly late and a couple others, you know, long story short, we didn't, I mean, we technically did have a full tournament, but we really didn't, you know what I mean? So, long story short, we didn't really do as much as we should have done, you know what I mean? No. So I basically decided that, 2, 3, 4, we were just gonna finish it next week, kind of thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect, that ought to do it. You know, assuming my dimensions aren't off, and they probably are, let's face it, this is me. I'm not famous for having my shit together. Okay, there's that now. But, So I didn't really get to do my full tournament yet, which really sucked. I had like one official tournament match the whole game. But I did have a couple unofficial matches, both during and after League, so that was fun. I did have a card game, which I won. I wouldn't call it necessarily a challenging good win, because A, the girl I played was still learning the rules, and B, she kind of had a very slapdash deck. It wasn't necessarily a bad deck, but the problem was she had, or at least it felt like she had so many different types of things that she didn't get any of the energy she needed. Basically, if she hadn't been energy fucked, which she totally was, by the way, if she hadn't been energy fucked, I would have probably had a much harder time of things than I ended up having. And it's just the way of things, you know? But it was still fun. And like I told her, when we sat down to play, I'm like, now let me warn you, this is a very brutal deck. And it is. It's just built to do what it does, which is win me matches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, let's go 5 deep, just for safety's sake. Then we do the one over here. Yep. Perfect. Right now I'm more concerned with walls than floor, because once I have the walls up, I can start clearing this out and doing it manually. So I'm gonna do the fucking floor anyway, apparently. God damn it. Needed that too. Oh well. I guess I don't have to break it. It's in place after all. Now let's do either side of this, because this is my way in until further notice. But yeah, it was pretty good. I gave away a couple of my Mareeps, not all of them, not even close. Turns out I had a lot more than I thought I had. Jesus fuck. Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking, oh, I've got like 8 perfect Mareeps. No, I've got considerably more than 8 Mareep. I have something along the lines of like 15 perfect fucking Mareep. So yeah, those unfamiliar with me doing Minecraft, because let's face it, it's been like a year or 2 since I did Minecraft on my channel, I am a big fan of glass and building underwater. It's a thing that I do. It's actually what got me into Minecraft in the first place, was watching Yahtzee Croshaw on Let's Drown Out, doing stuff with his Minecraft where he built underwater using glass, and I thought it was the coolest fucking thing. And that is the impetus that made me buy Minecraft. Because up until then, my sole exposure to it had been through the music, which was good, don't get me wrong. But, you know, the music doesn't necessarily sell you on the game, because it's not the game. Nor should it be considered thusly, you know. So let's start some of these. Let's get my floor going a little bit more. Alright, perfect. Stupid as this all seems, it will pay off in the long run. You know, eventually, maybe. It'll give me a place to fuck with, at least. That's something. I'll figure out how I'm going to get in later. Right now, the goal is just to have Oh, they changed the noise. Interesting. That's new. Another perk of living underwater, although it doesn't really matter for me, is you're kind of not worried about Endermen, ever, because they don't like getting wet. Which is really funny, because neither do I, really. I'm really weird about water. I absolutely love to swim. I like puddles. I love when it rains, but I hate getting wet. Damned if I know how that works, but it does. It's just how I operate. So yeah, I saw some movies over the weekend. It was fun. I had a lot of fun this week. Well, I can't really say over the weekend. It was like Thursday and Friday I saw them, but I saw Rampage on Friday, and I saw Pacific Rim 2 on Thursday, and it was a lot of fun. I actually caught the very last showing at the theater. Because the funny thing is, I didn't even know it was in theaters at the time. And I was reading my webcomics, because I read webcomics, because, fuck it, everyone reads some webcomic. You may not be reading the same shit as everyone else, but there's something you're reading. You know, the one in particular was one called Manly Guys Doing Manly Things, which is a lot of fun. And it updates... I don't want to say irregularly, but it's about once a week. Usually, sometimes she'll get something done a lot quicker. But from what I understand, the comic is sort of a side thing she does, as opposed to being, you know, her thing. Because for some webcomics, the comic is their thing. That's what they do. Maybe they have Patreons, maybe it's just a labor of love. But you get the idea. And in her case, she does have an actual job. I don't remember what it is, but she has one. And, so yeah, updates aren't always as quick as the fans would really enjoy. But they do occur every now and then, you know. And in this particular case, an update was about Pacific Rim 2. And I'm sitting here thinking, that's out? Because I knew it existed, but I didn't know it was in theaters yet. Much less that it was almost out of theaters. I literally missed the entire fucking theater run of this movie. You know? Which is kind of fucked up when you think about it. But yeah, I'd been excited all week for Rampage. And, because I've been wanting to see Rampage since I heard that it existed. I think I found out via Tyrone Magnus's channel, because he did like a trailer react. I'm like, oh no, don't tell me they're doing Rampage. They're doing Rampage. I'm like, oh, that's so awesome. I loved Rampage when I was a kid. And he asked a question I'm sure a lot of people asked, which is, what's with the wolf? And the answer to what's with the wolf is that he's always been there. It's just that most of us grew up with the Nintendo version. I happen to own the Nintendo version. I don't anymore. I'll get into that in a minute. But the Nintendo version only had George and Lizzie, whereas the arcade and I believe Genesis versions had Ralph, Lizzie, and George. Ralph being the wolf. So yeah, he's a character who's been there from the start. It's just he didn't get the exposure that George and Lizzie did for reasons. You know, but yeah, it was an arcade game, and not a lot of people knew that. They thought, oh, it's on Nintendo. Which it was. It was also on Genesis, but Genesis wasn't as big a deal at the time, for some reason. You know, I will never, now that I'm older and know how people operate, I cannot for the life of me understand how the Genesis, or how the Nintendo, the NES, competed with the Genesis the way it did. Because it did. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. It totally fucking competed. It was... They were literal console rivals. Like, legit console rivals, you know? I mean, people think, oh, it was the SNES and the Genesis, not at first. SNES came out much later. There was a couple years easy when Genesis was doing its thing. And, yeah, I cannot for the life of me figure out how that worked. That the 8-bit system and the 16-bit system were, for all intents and purposes, equal. You know? Some air. I can just make an air pocket here. Then I can stop leaving the room completely. But so yeah, I had fun with them. I had myself a little kaiju week. It was nice, which is good because I've actually been on a real kaiju kick lately. Like I've been watching reviews for all the Godzilla movies and whatnot. Because as I mentioned before, there is that channel thing that me and some friends were going to do. As of yet, it still hasn't materialized. I will keep you posted if and when it does become reality, but for now it's not. And that is something I'm sad about. I really want that to be a thing. I want to get a hold of the guys and say, hey, can we get on this channel thing? I really want this to be a thing that exists. Oh, I know what the problem is. I know what some of the problems are. Okay, what I'm about to do could really fuck me in the ass here. But we're gonna do it anyway. And it totally did. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna build a little box of bullshit. Kyrix's box of bullshit. And in Kyrix's box of bullshit, there will be an air pocket that Kyrix can fucking breathe in. Because Kyrix likes to breathe. But, there were a couple moments in Rampage that were just kind of really weird. But overall, I really loved it. I had a lot of fun with the movie. I liked how they did things. It was really good. Really nice. It was a lot of fun. The movie made me like the character of George, which is amazing because I was always the Lizzie player in Rampage. I hated George. He's just a dumb monkey. Didn't care. Never a King Kong guy was I, you know. Full-on Godzilla, you know, dinosaurs rule, that kind of shit. So the idea that they can make me like George as a character is kind of impressive to me. Let me out, let me out, let me out, let me out, let me out. Okay, Kyrix's bullshit box is not working the way it's supposed to. Okay, so we're gonna take Kyrix's bullshit box and we're gonna do a thing with it. Because the water physics may have changed over the year. So we're gonna assume that it has. Sure, 1 sand. That'll do. That'll work for now. That. I didn't get any recording done with Eisen and the guys because yesterday, that is to say Monday, Eisen had done, I want to say yard work, and basically his fingers were all fucked up for the day, so he couldn't get any gaming done. And today, one of the players wasn't ready, so it happens, you know. We all have those moments. I pretty much had that moment Monday, last week, where I'm like, I'm not ready. I'm a complete piece of shit who didn't do his work, you know. We all do it. It's just kind of a thing. And, so basically we're looking at next week to resume the LP, which is good, because we're probably going to raise the bar for what we were starting at. Because Eisen kind of jumped the gun, and so did one of the other guys, so we'll probably change the numbers we're working with. I have recently jumped back into Civ 5, which is a lot of fun. I really enjoy that game. Good, clean, wholesome entertainment as Genghis Khan conquering the world. I really do need to up the difficulty, because I'm getting good enough that this difficulty is no longer a challenge for me. And it is, quite frankly, kind of sad to watch the computer try to fight me. Because I, right now, have aircraft carriers, stealth bombers, and nukes. And only one other character in the game, that is Napoleon, has any of those things, and he has nukes. So I have full-on air supremacy. I have nukes. I have tanks. And everyone else is working with fucking cavalry. You know? It's just not fair. Not by any metric of the word. And after a while, that gets a little dull when the computer cannot defend itself, you know. And, yeah, it just gets a little old. And we have reached that point where it has gotten old enough. And I am no longer enjoying that particular aspect of my empire. Which sucks, because my empire is doing a lot of cool things. And, it can be doing a lot more than it's doing. Because here's the thing, you really are defined by your enemies, and when your enemies are a fucking joke, it doesn't matter how powerful you seem. Matter of fact, that was the whole premise of the movie Rocky Balboa. You know, Mason the Lion Dixon was this undefeated champ, but it didn't matter because all his opponents were schlubs. You know, it's like, oh, well, I'm the best. Like, yeah, well, no one believes you're the best because you only beat these jokers, you know? You fucking fight wusses, so who the fuck are you to claim to be the best? It's like, God damn it, it's not my fault, and it wasn't. Alright, I need some more sand. Maybe the map can help. Actually, the map can help. There's a bunch of sand right over here. Besides, you know, that sand right there. Ow. You should probably get some more coal, so... But, yeah, it's a lot of fun. And especially since I'm playing in a way I don't usually do, which is literally conquering the world. I mean, usually I care to an extent what the other nations think about me. Like, I try not to do too much warmongery shit. You know? Which is funny because Mongolia is built to be played that way. That's exactly how it's designed to run. Is kill them all and then sort them out when you're done. You know? And that's not my typical playstyle. But for today, it is. And I'm doing really good at it. None of the nations fucking like me, obviously, but I don't care. Matter of fact, I, through pretty much unanimous decree by the World Council, was boycotted. Like, nobody can enter trades with me. Or, you know, like, you can't send caravans to me, and I don't care, because, fuck it. What do I need with your goods? You know, if you have something I want, I will take it. And the funny thing is, pretty soon I'll be in a position where I can have diplomatic victory, or diplomatic victory, because I will have all the nations of the world, and there's only one other nation that can outvote me, and it'll be down to a city, so... I mean, at that point, what the fuck can you do to me, really? And the answer is, you can cry, because crying is a free action. You know? Speaking of D&D, which is what that came from, I've been playing, as of today, some Planescape Torment Enhanced. And I gotta say, I'm not noticing a hell of a lot of difference from the normal. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of Planescape Torment. It is a fantastic game. But it is a lengthy, talky fucking game. And it is a single-player game, so it's not nearly as fun as, say, Icewind Dale, Baldur's Gate, and Neverwinter Nights, where you can play with your buddies, you know. This is for people who want to do shit themselves. Just full stop. Because that's your sole and only option. It's just, I'm gonna play by myself, okay. I'm glad you said that, because that's option A, B, and C. Ooh, some iron. Kyrix likes iron. I was wondering if I'd ever find any of that shit. Plug the hole. Yeah, nothing worthwhile in here. Didn't think so, but figured I'd try it anyway. Hopefully this will be enough sand to do what I want to do. Let's take this iron ore. Iron ore what? That's a stupid joke, Kyrix, and you should feel ashamed for making it. Anywho, we, the one, so far, that I've noticed, notable fucking difference, and it is a biggie, is the highlighter feature where you can just hold tab, and anything that can be interacted with, like doors and, most importantly, chests and object piles, just glow. That's a very big deal. That made Baldur's Gate 1 fucking broken. Because for those who never played Baldur's Gate 1, Baldur's Gate 1 had tons upon tons of hidden shit. When I say hidden shit, I'm not like, oh, here's this little thing, here's this little, it's a +1 dagger. No, I mean, like, here's a ring that doubles the fucking level 1 spells a wizard can cast. And for those who don't fucking know, that is so fucking overpowered. You don't even goddamn know how overpowered that is. It's fucking stupid broken is what it is. Like, literal game-breaking bullshit. To be able to do something like that. And that is literally one of the first things you find in the game. You don't need to level up, you don't need to do anything. You just oh, I started an actual timer. I meant to do the stopwatch. Oh well. Yeah, you don't need to do shit. You just need to go to the inn. You don't even need to go out of your way. You just go to the inn that the game directs you to anyway. And when you're there, it's in a fucking tree. All you have to do is walk over to said tree, find the one spot where the item is hidden, and you have a ring that will break the fucking game if you're a wizard. And if you're not a wizard, if you just have a wizard in your party, and you will, maybe not right off the bat, although they do provide you with a wizard right off the bat. Yeah. It is literally doubling your effectiveness, because at level 1 you have a spell. 2 if you're a specialist. Like, say, oh, I'm a necromancer, okay, I can cast 2 level 1 spells. You know? So if you're just a mage at level 1 with this ring, you're casting 2 spells. If you're a necromancer at level 1, you're casting 4 spells. And at level 2, that doubles. Because you get another spell, you know? So if you're level 1, or if you're just a mage, you're casting now like 4 spells. And as, say, a necromancer or whatever, I'm using necromancer as a thing because you start out with access to one of those. And as a necromancer, you're casting like 6 spells now. And for those who, for whatever reason, don't know how this works, in D&D, a wizard is their spells. If your wizard doesn't have any good spells, your wizard's fucking bullshit. There are ways for a wizard to contribute when their magic runs out, but they're not numerous, and there are easier ways to do it. You know, like, you could, for example, my personal favorite example is run a Mage Thief. I say flat out that most multiclass characters are not worth running in 2nd edition, but the Mage Thief is a grand exception to that. Basically, Thief anything is pretty good. Warrior is the worst thing to mix. Cleric is okay. Mage generally is not good to mix unless it's, again, with Thief, because... You know what? I got nothing else to talk about. Let's break it down, 2nd edition style. Okay. There are many different class combinations, depending on your race. Only demi-humans can do this, by the way. Humans cannot. They have a different system, which is a lot fucking stupider. How demi-humans work is they can do what's known as multiclassing. Multiclassing is done at level 1. When you choose your class, you pick 2 to 3 classes to multiclass. What classes you can pick depends on your race, because that's how 2nd edition worked. And, like, for example, you can't make a mage anything with a dwarf, because dwarves can't be mages. You can only mage multiclass with elves and half-elves, I believe. And I think only half-elves can be mage clerics. No, not half-elves. It's elves. My mistake. Okay, so only elves can be mage clerics. And that one's really iffy and not one that I recommend. Because on the one hand, when I first played, I thought it'd be the coolest idea ever. Like, oh, I get all the spells. And you do. You get all the fucking spells. You get the mage spells and you get the cleric spells. The problem is, as a player, that means you have to jump back and forth between what spells you're casting, and your spell window gets fucking huge. Because it's not the same as doing it tabletop where they're all written down on a piece of paper. You have to scroll through menus, which means more pausing than usual. Because pausing is a thing. You will pause the game. You know, and if you don't, then you're just basically playing the D&D version of a fucking Nuzlocke. You know? you're playing with special rules at that point, because that's the only reason you wouldn't pause, because pausing is such a big deal. That's what they did. Okay. But, you're probably thinking, well, Kyrix, is that the only downside? No, that's actually not the only downside. A cleric wizard falls to the same major pitfall that a fighter wizard does, which is the only reason you multi-class wizard with anything is for better weapons. Because the wizard weapon choices are garbage. You have dagger, you have staff, you have sling, you have dart, and that's it. It's just all you have. And, and on top of that, the problem is that, oh, fuck. Oh, I did it. I broke the water. Oh, no, I didn't. That's where the fucking water's coming from. Okay. Alright, I found the spot. Anyway. Not only that, but you get them, like... You have to gain, like, 6 levels to get your second weapon. So when you make a level 1 wizard, it's like, okay, what weapon am I going to be spending the bulk of the game using? Is it going to be a staff? Or a dagger? Because if it's a staff, you've resigned yourself to melee combat, period, and nothing else. It's the only way you're defending yourself at all. And if you choose a dagger, you can fight at range with throwing daggers, but your options aren't going to be fan-fucking-tastic or anything. If you choose dart or sling, you've resigned yourself to never fighting in melee. Which, to be honest, isn't a bad thing as a wizard, because, let's face it, your melee combat is not your strong suit. Alright, let's see if I can do this without completely wrecking my shit. I'm pretty sure I can. Okay, yeah, perfect. So this'll do for starters. Let's put some of these in the corner, shall we? Perfect. Just for now. This will be for laters. Or until laters, rather. Oh, I can put it on glass now. That's a thing I didn't used to be able to do. That makes everything better. God damn it, stop that. Anyway, so yeah, on the subject of wizards, like I said, if you choose, like, sling or darts, you're resigned to range, which isn't a bad choice. It's a limiting choice. It's a very limiting choice, because it means that if something gets in your face, you're kind of boned. Which, to be fair, you're kind of boned anyway. Let's not mince words here. A wizard in melee is not a happy wizard at all. Not even goddamn close. But, a wizard in melee with a staff or dagger is a hell of a lot happier than a wizard in melee with a sling or a dart. Let's not mince words here. So, yeah, as a cleric, you would obviously gain all the cleric spells, because you get them. It's how your class works. And, you also would gain all the clerical weapons, which is all the bludgeoning weapons, maces, quarterstaffs that you already had, slings which you already had, morning stars, clubs, warhammer, shit like that. Lots of fun weapons, not gonna lie. You also gain all the armor in the game. Sounds great? Yeah, I'll bet it does. Here's the problem. In 2nd edition, wearing armor, period, that wasn't Elven Chain, means you can't cast wizard spells ever. Until you take it off. Now in 3rd edition, they changed this so that each armor had a spell failure chance. Like, if you're wearing leather, there's a slight chance it'll fail. If you're wearing chain, it's slightly higher. If you're wearing plate mail, especially with a tower shield, then fuck it, you're not casting shit. Because I think a plate mail by itself is like a coin flip. Throw a tower shield on top of that, and now it's like a 10% chance you'll cast anything ever, you know. But, 4th edition changed that even further, basically saying if you can, if you're proficient in it, you can cast whatever you want in whatever armor you have. And 5th edition continued this trend. But here's the thing. 4th edition made it really hard to do this because of how the armor proficiency system worked. Basically, cloth was the cloth is what you start with. And everything on top of that is another proficiency. And you have to have each proficiency before you can use the next one. Like, in order to use leather, you have to use cloth first. Then to use hide, I think, or chain, you need leather. Or no, it's like hide is after leather. Then there's chain. Then there's plate, or something like that. Basically, you're talking like literally 5 or 6 proficiencies to wear plate mail. Basically, every feat you would get in the heroic tier is going towards armor. And quite frankly, if you're willing to put in that kind of effort, you deserve the armor. And keep in mind, I'm kind of a purist when it comes to that shit most of the time. And I'm saying, yeah, if you want to put in the kind of training where you are literally devoting your entire career to learning how to use armor, then more power to you. But yeah, as I said, 5th edition made that shit easier because it's the same system where if you're proficient in the armor, you can cast with it. But they made it easier because first off, there's only 3 armor classes there. There's heavy, medium, light. You know, not that big a deal. Not nearly as big a deal. Ah, so I did get rid of it. Okay. What did I do? Throw it? I don't even know. So yeah, you've got heavy, medium, light. And as an example, dwarves, that is to say mountain dwarves, start with medium armor proficiency. So I have taken, even though it's... Which, again, it's kind of funny because I am very much a purist when it comes to wizards a lot of times. But I have taken to running mountain dwarf wizards because, first off, no one expects that shit. You know, there's kind of a racial bias against magic in general with dwarves. They don't like magic. And in a lot of editions, they're resistant to it. Just flat out. Like, it doesn't do shit to them. Because they're dwarves. But having a wizard that can wear chainmail is kind of a big deal. Only problem is, in 5th edition, you have kits. You know, like, actually... I'm gonna start with this, this, and this. And none of the wizard kits come with armor. Because obvious reasons. And dwarves as a race don't have a kit. I mean, you can buy shit, you can loot shit, but basically you're not going to be starting with the armor, but as soon as you get it, oh boy, it's going to be fun. And feats in that game are a lot rarer because you basically trade stat increases for them. Usually 4, but not always, because some classes get them more frequently. But generally every 4 levels you get the option for a stat increase, and instead you can take a feat. You know? And you can take feats for like, oh, I want to be able to equip plate armor, which kind of a waste because plate armor is expensive in 5th edition. as it should be. As opposed to in 4th edition, where it's actually really cheap and a level 1 character has no problem affording it. But there is actually a thing for wizards where you can spellcast while holding a shield, which is kind of a big deal for those Mountain Dwarf wizards. So now, the thing with the Mountain Dwarf is you're trading a +2 intelligence stat up that you would otherwise have for higher strength, constitution, and the ability to wear armor. The downside being your spells are going to hit 1 point less hard than they otherwise would. Basically, you're topping out at 16 instead of 18 on your stat, which could be fine if you're not super big on min-maxing. I happen to be one of those people who tries to min-max a lot of times. Lots of people get on my case on that, but here's the thing. It's kind of hard to roleplay when your character's dead. You know? That's really the mentality I have behind it. If my character lives through combat, I can roleplay all sorts of fun shit with it. But if they die and have to keep being raised, or I keep having to roll up characters, then it doesn't matter what kind of backstory or rich history this character has, because they're going to be fucking dead, you know? So say what you will about my mindset on the min-maxing, there is a legitimate point behind it. Okay, now this is gonna suck. What I'm gonna do next. But, so yeah, I got sidetracked. So yeah, the point behind a fighter wizard is, oh, I have all the weapons in the game. That's really cool. I have high hit points. That's really cool. I have a great Thaco, because that's a thing in 2nd edition. That's pretty cool. I have access to all the armor in the game. That's where you lose it. Because you can't use any of it and still be a wizard. You know, if you want to use that plate armor you're hauling around, say goodbye being a wizard. And if you're not going to cast spells, why the fuck are you a wizard in the first place? That they do literally one thing. They cast spells and nothing else. So if you are getting rid of your spellcasting ability, you are playing the wrong class. Just flat out. We're gonna... So next up, you got Fighter Cleric. Fighter Cleric is actually a pretty good class to have, because you gain the extra hit points of the fighter, you gain the extra proficiency levels of the fighter, you gain the better attack rating of the fighter, and all you're losing are access to slashing and piercing weapons, because clerics can only use bludgeoning weapons. So basically, you are, for all intents and purposes, a cleric with extra hit points who is slightly better in combat. But I consider this a waste, because you'll remember I said mixing fighter with just about anything kind of sucks. Because in 2nd edition, fighters offer nothing really, other than extra hit points. Here's the problem with that. Fighters have a D10 hit die, and clerics have a D8. So you are literally rolling 2 more hit points a level. Now, if you have a ridiculously high constitution stat, you're getting more hit points per level by a significant margin, because fighters do that. But here's the thing. You probably don't have a high constitution, I mean, because here's the thing. To play a good cleric fighter, you're currently relying on 3 different stats. You've got strength, so that you've got a good attack and good damage. Okay. You've got wisdom, so that you're casting a lot of spells, because clerics get extra spells for having high wisdom. You know. And you're doing constitution. So, yeah, you're just kind of fucking trying to do everything at once and kind of failing at everything. And honestly, if you're going to be having that many stats maxed out, at that point you may as well just play a fucking paladin, because that's what you're trying to do at that point. You know? I mean, if you want to play a paladin, more power to you. Paladins, if you can deal with the stat allocations, which are pretty extreme, not gonna lie, paladins can be a really good class, especially when played properly. Emphasis on properly. Because it's kind of a big emphasis. Ooh, more metal. Kyrix likes metal. But, for the record, I think I literally just tried to tear apart a rock with a map. And if I did, that's amazing for all the wrong reasons. So let's put some sand down here. Oh, that's sandstone, okay. So, that brings us to Fighter Thief, which is an okay class. I think it's kind of a waste. For many of the reasons that Fighter Mage is, and we'll get into that in a minute, but Fighter Thief gives the Thief access to all the fighter weapons, and the fighter hit points, and the fighter attack rating, which are good things, but here's the kicker with that. Thief doesn't really need them. The Thief could use the hit points. Not gonna lie, because the Thief rolls a d6 versus the fighter's d10. So that's a potential 4 extra hit points a level. The Thief's stats actually go really well with the fighter, because a high dexterity means a high armor class, which means you're not going to get hit as much. And in 2nd edition, that stacks with shit like plate mail, unlike, say, 3rd edition and higher, where plate mail has a reduction cost, let's call it. Because I don't have a better word for it right now. But it basically has a dexterity penalty, that's the word I'm looking for. And, the issue here is that the Thief, again, cannot benefit from the fighter's armor. So anything above leather or chain, and the Thief's kind of fucking themselves out of all of the abilities that you chose to be a Thief in the first place, you know? It's the fucking Mage thing all over again. Now, the Fighter Mage is the worst, for the same reason as the Cleric, but here's the difference. With the Fighter Mage, you're getting access to literally every weapon in the game. No restrictions. If it's a weapon, unless it's like Thief only as a magical sword, like, oh, this magical sword only works for thieves, that you can't use for obvious reasons, but like, oh, here's a broadsword. Okay, I'm a Fighter Mage, I can use a broadsword kind of thing. That's cool. But again, the armor thing. The armor thing is what's going to fuck you in the ass. Because that's what it does. That's what it exists for, to fuck you in the ass. More iron ore. Now. Try 3. Apparently that was enough last time. So yeah, basically, unless you're playing... It's not a good idea to multiclass, because you're wasting a lot of bullshit. Now, a Thief Cleric, which I think is possible, I think dwarves can do it. But a thief cleric's a weird one. Because anything higher than leather and a thief starts taking penalties. Thieves can only wear 3 real kinds of armor. Leather, studded leather, and elven chain. That'll be important in a minute. So, as a thief, you gain access to all the bludgeoning weapons, which is nice. But you lose things like daggers and short swords that do a lot of damage, and arrows, which are in abundance, and you drop down to the sling instead. And yeah, again, you miss out on all that armor. Now, granted, your thief now has clerical spells, but that's not the thief's fucking job. You know, the thief's job isn't to run around healing people. It's to get in there, disarm traps, and backstab motherfuckers, you know? And we're gonna stop the timer here, because it's about to go off. Now, that brings me to the final thing, because I know I keep getting sidetracked. But anyway, Mage Thief. Here's what you're getting with the Mage Thief. The Mage has the worst attack ratio of the game, period. Their Thanko is garbage. So as a Mage Thief, you gain the Thief's Thanko, which is slightly better, because it's Fighter, Cleric, Thief, Wizard. There are other classes, but that's what they go off of. There is the Fighter bracket, or the Warrior bracket, which is Fighter, Paladin, and Ranger. There is the Priest bracket, which is Cleric and Druid. There is the Rogue bracket, which is Thief and Bard. And there is the Wizard bracket, which is all of the Mage classes, Mage and Specialist. So you're gaining the Rogue Thanko bracket. Which I think how it is like every level fighters gain 1 Thanko reduction, because they start at 20 and work down to 1. I think every 3 levels, a Cleric gets 2 reductions. So like at level 3 they'll have 18, as opposed to a Fighter 17, you know. So they'll be a little bit behind the Fighter, but not bad. I think every 2 or 3 levels, I think it's every 2 levels, a Thief gains 1. So at level 2, they're 19, you know. At level 4, they'll be 17, or they'll be 18 like the Cleric is at level 3. And I think the Wizards, like every 4 levels, they gain 1. Maybe it's 5. It's pretty fucking extreme. But yeah, so you're going to be hitting better. They also gain access to all the Thief's weaponry. That means long sword, short bow, long bow. Well, not long bow. I don't think you get long bow. But either way, you get access to bows, finally, which is much better than using a sling or using a fucking dart or a thrown dagger. And you still have access to those because you still have all your wizard weapons. More importantly, they get, I believe, 2 starting proficiencies, and they get theirs more often. So you're not waiting until level 5 or 6 to get your next weapon. They also gain access to thief abilities. So you're going to be picking pockets, finding traps, opening locks, that kind of shit. On top of that, you're getting your wizard spells. So you've got all your wizard spells, including potentially invisibility, which means you can save points in hide in shadows and move silently, because you'll be invisible. You're getting the Thief hit point bracket, which is a D6 compared to the Wizard's D4. Now, what are you losing? You're losing access to leather armor, which you couldn't wear anyway, and only offers like 1 armor class reduction, because armor class, the lower the armor class and second the better. So a 10 is garbage, a negative 10 is godly. So you'd be going from a 10 to a 9. Not that big a deal. And you're also losing studded leather, which would take you from a 10 to an 8. Again, not that big a deal. Especially since, as a thief, your dex is going to be really high, which is something you want as a wizard anyway. So, if you're rocking an 18 intelligence and an 18 dexterity like you should... I'm sorry, an 18 intelligence and a 19 dexterity, because you're going to be... As a mage thief, you're going to be an elf, so you're going to get that extra point of dex. If you're rocking that, you already have a 6 armor class anyway. You're effectively wearing, I want to say chainmail, no shield. You know, something like that. So you're effectively in good armor as it is, and the armor spell can make it even better. Which in 2nd edition, the armor spell didn't fucking wear off. I think the enhanced versions changed that, but I don't know. But anyway, notice I only said 2 armor, because here's the thing. If you can find Elven Chain, a thief can wear that. That's one of their 3 armor types. They can also wear hide, but none of the fucking games ever use it, so we're not counting it. But more importantly, a wizard can wear Elven Chain and still cast spells. So if you find Elven Chain, you're able to wear that, because a wizard can't wear it normally, but a thief wizard can, and it doesn't interfere with spells. So when you find that, you're adding that Elven Chain, which is, like I said, armor class 4 or 5, or rather 5 or 6, plus, like, -4 reduction on top of that from your dexterity, you know? So, yeah, the only downside is you're losing potentially 2 points of armor class. And you're not going to gain your thief skills as fast because you're splitting your experience between 2 classes. So, Mage Thief is almost infinitely superior. The downside being you can't choose any wizard specializations. Like, you can't be an necromancer, you can't be an invoker, you can't be an abjurer, that kind of thing. And in games like Baldur's Gate, you can't choose any kits. Like, you can't be an assassin or something along those lines. But that's not that big a deal in comparison to what you get. Anywho, we're gonna call it here. I got this done. This took me a fucking hour. Jesus Christ, I spent the entire hour fucking with that. Now I remember why I played Minecraft so much. Alright, everyone. I will see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.